off we go. All right, cool. So we are going to continue with last week's start to these meetings with kind of going into just a quick check where everybody's at, what's going on. So we inaugurally call this what I call the fired up and fucked up. So kind of what you're fired up about today and what you're not so fired up with. So maybe some of the issues that you're going through in your immediate context as to what's going on. So Edwin, I'm going to look to you to kind of lead us through.
It's been a good week. The kind of top of mind for me, my banker reached out this morning about a 200 unit portfolio in Truro.
Yes.
And so we have an opportunity to take all of that if it's a good fit for us. And my banker wants in on the deal, which means it's probably a good one. So we just got to kind of decide whether we can swallow that elephant for one. And if it is possible, is that the best use of capital and energy?
Awesome. Yeah, I was reading your stack just before coming in, and I want to talk about that a little bit later because I think it's going to be something that, it's very timing wise, it's great for kind of Jenna's current situation. And I know Jeremy has talked about this before, and Derek's new. We're going to have Derek introduce himself in a few minutes. And we'll kind of see if the context of that discussion is something that he's also looked at before, because I know obviously we've done it, on 2 other occasions. So I have a few words to say about, operating secondary and tertiary locations. So
yeah.
Edwin, is that a purchase or a management contract?
Purchase. We don't do any management right now.
Right.
I'm a sucker for punishment, but I'm not sure I'm ready to be an actual property manager.
After our last call, I was like, man, 200 units for an external management contract. That's a lot to start on your first one.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
I thought it was probably a purchase, but
yeah.
Cool. Well, that's exciting. That's exciting. So what's not so exciting?
Things are good. Like we had that kind of a bit of a rocky road with our operations manager.
Yep.
And I think it's kind of resulted in reorganizing a couple of different, like creating some more defined areas of responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
We've been growing and we've been kind of in each other's business a little bit more than we need to be. So we've kind of created some clarity around that, and everyone's real fired up, and I don't think I've had a day this quiet from a phone perspective in years, and that is a very good sign when you've got a lot of guys rolling on sites in a hurricane.
Nice.
So yeah,
awesome.
I don't have a whole lot to complain about.
So over the last 2 weeks, how much on-site work have you done?
I think I spent 1 day in an excavator, and that's it.
That's it. Good.
That's it. Yeah.
Nice.
And that was on a frig. I had my boy with me that day too, so it wasn't even a
real full day.
Nice. Yeah.
Fantastic. Good to hear. Awesome. All right, Jenna, what do you got? Switching rooms.
We're filling a bathtub here because we are on well water where we live. So it's been a bit of a doozy of a week for me. I had, Edwin had actually called the property owner that we were renovating a duplex for. Mm-hmm. And from what I could understand, he ran out of money. And we had a lease signed to get a side ready for someone for October 1st. And so he's asked that we pull out and just stop work on it. So that was kind of tricky. You know, and for me, like my guys, we have other work backed up to do. So that's not really an issue, but I'm concerned with the fella that has already paid his rent for a property that like vacancy is really, really tough to find.
Yeah.
Pet friendly, 3-bedroom, affordable. So that was challenging, and I was trying to sort that out while driving my daughter to get checked out. And then I ended up, somebody ended up running a red light and hitting me and my daughter in the car. So so that happened.
I saw that. When did that happen?
Yesterday, like quarter
Lovely.
to 11 in the morning.
Nice.
So I don't know if you saw my post thanking my insurance agent.
Yes, I saw that.
Because like I switched all our properties over to him, and he does take really good care. So when I called, he was just like, hey, how are you doing? And I'm like, oh my God, not good. And then I was just like, anyway, it was like a fussle. And the man who hit me, it was a big traffic area, the corner of North and Roby in Halifax downtown, and there was construction there, and he was just like trying to pretend like no big thing.
No big deal. Yeah.
And was almost got hit 3 times hopping back and forth in traffic to give me his information, and then he's been calling me and I had to get checked out, and I've got all the whiplash basically, and so I'm in pain and frustrated, and
That's all you needed to be able to take you off the sidelines.
And a hurricane to prepare for.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Lovely. That's fun, Phil. So Edwin, did you come into are you doing some work over there, or you just knew the owner?
So this guy called on kind of like a civil basis, but so he was having problems with his water bill. So he wanted to put in a new, go into the street, put in a new service to try and reduce the water bill, or put that bill on the tenants. And I don't know how successful I was, Jenna, but I tried to talk him out of it, because I'm like, man, sounds like you got a leaky toilet.
Yeah.
And you should spend $150 to resolve that issue and not split up your water meters. Because even on like 200 unit buildings, like no one splits up the water meters. No. It's not worth the expense and the overhead. Yeah. So yeah, no, I guess bullet dodged in hindsight there.
Yeah.
He just didn't know.
It was great advice, and I think, it's a new investor, and he just jumped right in with what I didn't realize is talking about fire. One of the duplexes on the corner there had a fire that and there was fatalities. And I guess the same electrician had done multiple of the duplexes. And I haven't even had a chance to talk to him about that, but he was doing a conversion from oil to electric heat. And that's where the bulk of his money that he sort of budgeted for kind of went. So all the supplies are there to fix the duplex. We got like a crazy amount of rent, and I feel like the value's there. People are, I didn't even advertise the place. Somebody called me and I was like, I think this would be good for you. You want this area. So we have a lease signed. There's a damage deposit. There's rent. Anyway, that I'm holding, trying to figure out what to do with that. But I was honestly so angry about the situation and the way it went down and then I had an accident, and he was trying to call me while I was dealing. I couldn't. I was like, Greg, you got to text him and tell him I can't deal with him.
Hold off.
Can't deal with him today. So we'll see. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Jeremy, where are you at, man? We haven't heard from you in a while. I know you got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah. Well, I have this lady that I does leasing and stuff for me. And so last week I started having her do maintenance coordination on work orders and stuff. So to help get that off my plate. So I think her first week she did like 8 hours worth, which is what I was kind of expecting, like 5 to 10 maybe. So it's good to get that. So I'm not really worrying about it as much. And then I'm gonna
she's in person, right? She's physical. She's not VA.
She's local to me, but she just works from home. Yeah, but yeah, she's about 30 minutes from me. And then within the next like 2 weeks, I'll start having her help out with lease renewals and kind of tracking that. So I'm glad to get those two things off my plate. And she used to do a lot of maintenance coordination for Johnson Controls, like big AC units and all these systems and stuff. So, I mean, this is a cakewalk from what she used to do. And she's one of my agents, so just helping her get some sales and stuff. So that's been really good.
Awesome.
I would say that investment fund that we work with out of Orlando, we brought on some properties from them, about 17 or so doors, and they're all single family. So I don't really want to be in Pasco County, which is the next county up, and that's where these are. So I decided to take them on. So mostly because of the distance and stuff, but I'm kind of walking into a grenade more so because they had kind of internal property management, if you will, on these, and they parted ways with the guy that was doing it, and he just wasn't using software as well as he should have, and kind of walked into a couple things. So just kind of dealing with some tenants on some stuff with that, but overall it's good because I have a property manager that I've linked up with out there that's going to be doing the leasing and tenant placement, so I'm not having to handle that part. And then I'm going to just give her some tips and stuff on like fee maximizing we've talked about. She's not charging anything for lease renewals, which is just absurd in our market, and some other things. So so that's kind of good. So but it's just some growing pains there with that for the most part. But
cool.
Yeah, those are kind of the main two things that are top of mind.
Very good. So what's your door kind of? Weren't you heading for 175 by the end of the year?
150, and I'm at like 135. So
135. Okay. You got plenty of time.
Yeah. So we added like kind of a total of 20 doors with that Pasco, because there was a couple people they managed for that were like over in that area. So I was at 115, so like 135, and then I mean I'm pretty much on pace, but I should get pretty close. But yeah, that's the goal for this year, and then
150.
We'll see about next year. I really would just like to get to 250 next year, and that's kind of my goal target. And then my wife is went on her own as an architect, and so she'll start kind of like October 1st. So we're getting a lot of stuff in order for that. So I'm just kind of helping focus some time on helping her rebuild that.
Yep. Cool. All right. Awesome. Thanks, Jeremy. All right, Derek. Guys, Derek Nolte is new to the group. This is actually his first week joining. So Derek, a little bit about, so Jeremy's based in Florida. You're close to Tampa, right, Jeremy? Yeah. So Jeremy's at around getting close to the 150 unit mark. Jenna and Edwin are both in Halifax, Canada. So they're actually not far from me. Jenna are you going to hit close to 100 if you do that acquisition, Jenna?
I will. I'll be just over 100. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
At the end of December is what we're looking at. Yeah.
Awesome. And Edwin has about 100 units, but those are all units that he owns. He doesn't do third-party management, but he owns all of his units. He does have a lot of other stuff, construction, has a construction company, and a few other different services and business around the ecosystem of real estate. So maybe you can give us kind of a breakdown or introduce yourself to the group, kind of let them know where you're located, your unit count, and kind of some things, kind of almost a correlation to what we finished our talk with the other day in terms of your top working and not working, maybe pick one of each.
Yeah, for sure. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you having me here. I'm happy and excited to be a part of it. So I'm in Grand Forks, North Dakota. I am almost Canadian, but not quite. So we're about an hour south of the Canadian border, below just south of Winnipeg. Born and raised in the area. We're a border city on Minnesota, North Dakota. So our market is considered very small. It's 55,000-ish population.
Oh, wow.
So what's considered a pretty small market. I've been in the industry for about 15 years through various management companies locally. Just stumbled into the business when I was 20, 21 years old. And I just couldn't escape, as no matter how hard I tried, it sucked me in and it kept me. So about 4 years ago, I decided to branch off and start my own management company. I got to the point with the previous company I was working for, third party supervising 1,200 units, 20 some staff, about 120 owners, 1,200 units. Just got burned out on it. It was actually like 2 or 3 owners that pushed me over the edge. And after a really bad meeting, I just said, I'm out. I'm either going to do this to myself. I said, I'm out. I'm either going to do this on my own, or I am going to start fresh and something different outside property management. So prepared for quite a while, probably the better part of a year preparing for my own company, doing the legal stuff, LLC, trying to get some business. I did take a couple clients with me that actually had urged me to do this for quite a while. I was fortunate in the sense that when I was in the process of doing this, I had a couple people reach out to me about looking for third-party management. I'd interview with them and I disclosed what I was doing, and they said, well, I want to come with you, and I'm if we hit it off well, I was the one that they wanted to be contact with. So they said, well, I don't care what company it is, I want you to be the guy because we hit it off well. And so I started out technically on day one with 80 units right out of the gate, which helped me out a lot. And now 3 years and 11 months later, so just shy of 4 years, I'm at 715 units, almost all third party. I have just a handful of properties that I've acquired through, different scenarios, but I think we're just getting ready to close on our 12th door internally, owned by myself and my wife, or another couple that we have a LLC partnership with that we've purchased a couple properties. So otherwise it's strictly third party, single family, multifamily, commercial. We have 160 some units in HOA, 2 large HOAs. Tony and I had a nice talk about how awesome HOAs are to manage. So
yeah, lots of fun.
It's a third of the price and twice the stress. So
Yeah.
It is what it is. I've got experience with them. I have good relationship with the 2 HOA boards. If I didn't, I wouldn't be doing it. It's strictly because the board that I'm still doing it for them. The 2 boards are just great people to work with. I have, I think, 10 people on payroll. My wife is part-time, half-time, almost. She's put in a resignation as a registered nurse to come over almost full-time. She thinks she's going to work at home and take the easy street, but little does she know I'm making a laundry list of duties for her that she's going to get bombarded with that I can take off my plate. So I have a property manager, office manager, leasing agent, myself in the office, full-time, 40 hours, and then 3 full-time maintenance wrench turners and 1 cleaner painter on staff. So I just started in-house maintenance on the 1st of the year, which was a big deal for me. That was, took it from, so I did up to 250 units, me, myself, and I, with 1 part-time maintenance. And it was doing everything, started out of a home office, then went to a small office. And after about 250, 275 units, I hired my first full-time employee. And then I realized how smart of a choice that was. So I kept hiring people. After I got over that initial hump of, protecting my little baby of my company, I got over that hump to let people in and help me out. I opened the door and just kept hiring people. And we're at a pretty good spot right now. Vacancy is good. There's been a lot of development in Grand Forks over the years. We went probably 20 years with below 3% vacancy citywide. and now we're closer to 10% vacancy because of all the new development.
Oh, okay. New stuff.
And yeah, so we're at about 7.5% company-wide. City-wide, closer to 10%. We have an Air Force base and a University of North Dakota's here. You know, big hockey program for college hockey. 12,000 students, I believe. So it's yeah, it's good. It's been a hell of a ride. Cool. It's been a lot of fun. Will be a lot of fun continuing. It's you know, I'm in it for the long haul. I just signed on my biggest client, 83 units. Was previously student housing. The university sold the property. It's right on the edge of the campus, so we opened up to market rate, and a couple gentlemen from Winnipeg bought it, so they're the actual investors. I don't know if I ever mentioned that. So
sweet.
Sussex Realty out of Winnipeg are partial owners on that deal. Okay. So they interviewed a few clients, a few companies, and they fortunately hired us to manage the property, and I had 40% vacancy going into that thing. Wow. So almost 40 units vacant, and we rented all but 7 of them in the last like 45 days. So we had a huge lease up over there. We're redoing the boiler system, doing a bunch of work on the pool there. Even the electrical system electrical and heat was being driven from the university power grid. Like they had their own power grid separate from the city. So we're having to put the property on our own power grid with the rest of the city. The heat is powered from the university. We had to cut that off. We're working on getting a new boiler system. So probably $250,000 in CapEx in the first 12 months. And then after that, doing concrete parking lots, you know, looking at common area flooring, all sorts of projects. So nice. Those guys have been great to work with, and they've pretty much given me an open checkbook to make the property nice and fill it up with good tenants. So
please tell me you have a project management fee baked into your management.
No, I don't. No.
Oh, God.
And we talked about this the other day, Tony and I did too, but I'm coordinating a $500,000 roof replacement project at the large 120 unit HOA, and there's no project fee on that either. So I do a lot of work for free.
Yeah. At least like a billable hourly rate. I mean, we put in something small, like, you know, we don't do a lot of large turnovers, but we just put in that, you know, anything 10% over 5,000 or just like as negotiated. And it's a little tough with that because sometimes the owners want you to be really involved, or they don't really care if you're involved at all. So I just say it's a little negotiable depending on their expectations of what they want us to do. But it's definitely tough. I mean, we just implemented a flat work order fee to start in January. So we've been in the same boat where we never really even charged for any parts of maintenance. And then I negotiated rebates on all my handymen to start in January as well. So I'll start getting some nice income from the maintenance. But I couldn't imagine at your scale do a lot of that stuff. Especially multifamily, I think it's a lot more common to want to turn over the units. I have a lot of single family stuff where it's like accidental landlords and it's like just protect the property type stuff. But
you know, and we don't do, and I've thought about that almost nonstop since we talked about it, because I've always known that it's a thing and that I should be doing it, but I've just never done it. Part of it was just building the business and not really undercutting. I don't have a lot of competition. There could probably be several more third-party managers in this market, and we could sustain it very easily. I came at the right time where the business just came at me, like, you know, garden hose style or fire hose style. I just didn't have to search out any business. So now it's to the time where I need to start tweaking more processes like that. So we're doing for maintenance, my 4 maintenance personnel, all are close to that $20 per hour salary, and we're charging $40 per hour for billable hours for maintenance. So that's a good revenue source, which still needs to be tweaked, but it's a good revenue stream. But yes, I am 100%, you know, actually when Jeremy was talking about a kind of a per time negotiation over a certain dollar amount, I like that idea. I think it would work well for my scenario. We don't do a ton of projects, but when we do, every time I'm done with them, I kick myself in the ass for not getting compensated for it, because more often than not, I'm praised for the work we do and it goes really well. And I feel like I'm pretty good at it for not being a project manager. So we should be compensated for it. I don't have any of it written in my management contracts, and I don't know. I haven't thought enough about putting it in there going forward, but for sure, you know, two things to that. Going forward, it will be negotiated before a project starts or before I agree to take it on. Second side to that, so I have one client who previously owned a management company. He probably has 50 doors and he just bought 12 units. He doesn't even want me on site until he's done, because he's like, you're not getting paid for this. I'm taking over the project. I don't even want you here until I'm done because you're not getting paid for it. And he knows that. He doesn't have the money for it. Yeah, it is. Yeah, absolutely.
That's great.
Yeah,
it's you know, at the end of the day, you got to be working with people that understand the value of time, right?
Yeah.
If you're coordinating, you know, a $500,000 or a multi-million type dollar project in one of your properties, you got to go into that knowing that you're either yourself or your staff is going to be putting a considerable amount of time doing various things, whether if it's coordinating trades, visits, sending notices to tenants. Like, this is all over and above the day-to-day management that technically they're hiring us for. So I'd have you strongly consider put something in your management agreement that at least opens the conversation to say, okay, if there's any projects that are being done on these buildings over a certain amount, I think we have like 10 grand, then I think us, it's like, maybe we like use 1%. It's not meant to be a cash grab. It's meant just to compensate you for your time. And sometimes if you get into bigger projects, or if you have multiple projects, like you may not have enough manpower to be able to deal with all. So you may have to bring somebody in to help, right? So it just protects you in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. No, I agree. Absolutely.
It's not just to make money.
I've even been thinking about putting a blast out to my owners via email, just saying going forward, you know, I've you know, not been burned, but I've just had too many issues arise from doing this no project management fee, that going forward, you know, start a new policy for existing clients. For those of you that don't know Grand Forks, which is all of you, North Dakota does not have a oversight on management, so we're not required to be licensed or any kind of oversight. It's kind of the Wild West. So we have a good state. I'm active in the, you know, I'm a current president of the local Grand Forks Apartment Association. I'm on the board for the State Apartment Association, so I try to keep involved with that stuff. And currently we don't have any board or commission for real estate or for property management. We have real estate, of course, but they're not intertwined. So we don't have a lot of oversight with that stuff. But yeah, I think so. I read a lot of blogs and forums and Facebook posts about, and they drive me crazy. So I try not to get too far involved, because everybody knows everything about everything. And they don't even consider what state or market they're in. But I imagine certain markets would have regulations on that kind of stuff. When, you know, if you can start those new policies just off the bat like that. But that's my plan. And my clients, I think, would all appreciate and understand that if I said going forward, anything over $7,500, $10,000, I need to do minimum 1% negotiated per project.
Yeah, we just we did like so throughout the years we've slowly improved our maintenance agreement or management agreement and added different fees, but we just sent a bulk update to all the owners, like via mail, to start in January, where we addressed that work order fee. So we're giving them, you know, 2 to 3 months advance notice as well. And then we're most of my owners, some select ones, I'm not going to do it, but we're charging for inspections, which we didn't normally usually do. And like 1 or 2 other things. So I think it's easy. And so far I've only had one owner even reach out about it. So out of, you know, 60 people, you know, I only have one owner right now that's even brought it up, but it wasn't an objection. It was just like understanding it a little bit more. So I think you'll get a lot less kickback than you probably think.
Yeah, definitely.
I just did it, and I can email you what we did, but it's just very detailed. Like, you know, here's all the extra software we pay for. Here's the automations we're doing, like helping them kind of really understand. I'm not just throwing it in there and not adding any value. It's to actually help pay for something. But that was an easy way. And I think January is an easy time to just launch something.
Yeah.
We change.
Yeah. Fresh start. That's awesome. I like it.
Yeah. Cool. All right, guys. So I got 3 topics that I wanted to kind of run through today. One of them is going to tie in to one of our hot seats, which is this whole concept behind a second location. So it's a second location is oftentimes most property managers' first thought when they're looking to expand. So we're going to have a conversation about that. Before we jump into that one, I wanted to kind of touch on two things just because they're so fresh in my head. Sunday night, we had a massive fire here in town of a 40-unit building that I used to manage. Actually, I was involved in the construction, and I leased it up almost entirely by myself, and we managed it for probably the first 3 or 4 years. And it sold. A new owner, he self-managed, and anyways, last night it pretty much almost completely burnt to the ground. I don't know if you guys seen the picture that I posted. I think it was last night. But the conversation around seeing that fire is all about tenant insurance. And obviously we're all in this world, we're surrounded by tenants. So I wanted to kind of have the conversation around, one, are you guys making it mandatory for your tenants to have tenant insurance? If you're letting them bring their own tenant insurance policies to the table, or if you're building out some sort of resident package that you've put together and then you're coordinating the maintenance, or not the maintenance, the insurance, sorry. I know for us, for probably the first 6 or 7 years of our company, first 5 years we really didn't mandate it at all. If they had it, whatever, we kind of mentioned it during our lease signing, but we didn't really put a lot of pressure on them. Then we had a few incidents. Actually, we had a big fire about 5-6 years ago. So we started being a little bit more careful with tenant insurance. And then about 3 years ago, we actually partnered with an insurance company, and we now provide tenant insurance through our resident package. So it's not only mandatory, but it's actually through us. So they can't get insurance and cancel it the next day because we're the ones that control the policies, and it just comes out of the rent. So I look at a situation like that, and one, my heart goes out to the tenants because so far I've heard there's about 72 tenants from that building that have been displaced, families that have lost everything, and people that that are just completely screwed, and they don't have the money to be able to replenish the losses that they've gone through, and they don't have insurance. They said over 3/4 of the tenants that are in loss don't have tenant insurance, and I'm like, oh Jesus. Horrible, right? So there's that perspective of it, but I also want to tie it into a conversation of fee maximization and how can this be actually turned into a good thing for not only the tenants, but also income producing for our management companies. Derek, I'd be interested to hear, what do you guys do on the tenant insurance world?
So we use Appfolio for our property management software, which does offer a roost. I believe it's called renter's insurance. I don't advocate for it. I don't push it. If people want to sign up for it, that's their prerogative. But we don't even really discuss with tenants as far as the provided insurance.
Really?
We've had a couple balk at us about, that we're making money off it, which we don't. I'm not even necessarily an advocate for Appfolio to be able to do that, to give that feature out. We're kind of where you were the first 5 years, where we have it in our lease, where we highly recommend it. We clearly state that if there is a disaster, that any personal belongings aren't covered. Whenever it's brought up in conversation, we're very clear about it, but we do not have any kind of requirements for renter's insurance.
Okay, cool. I'll have you think about the angle of, and I only learned this as I got into the weeds working with the insurance company, was as we were putting the program together. In the States, you guys are so much luckier because you guys have all these insurance companies that you can partner with, and they've already got these programs for these tenant insurance programs. I basically had to talk to this insurance broker and ask him to create this program out of thin air. I'm like, here's my problem. I need you to create a program that we can participate in so that we can provide insurance for our tenants and that we can control it. And then I came to find out that once I was able to get 100% participation from my tenants in a specific building, and that building was insured through the same company, that the owner could probably get anywhere from 5 to 10% reduction in premiums because all of the tenants were insured and they were all under the same umbrella. So that's a huge kind of like a marketing angle for new management, right? If you can go to, let's say your 80 some units that you just got, to be able to go with them and say, listen, as one of the perks of working with my company, you know, we have this amazing partnership with insurance company XYZ, and show them what happens to where, okay, if you guys, you know, when you're coming up for renewal next year, have us bid on it or have them bid on it. You don't want to be kind of put in the middle of, you're now an insurance guy. You're connecting the two together. And if we can help get you to this place, then, you know, some people are paying $50,000, $100,000 a year in premiums. If they're getting a 5%, 10% reduction because they have full participation on the tenant side, it's huge. We've had that happen now a couple times, and my owners are like dumbfounded. They're like, "Holy shit!" You know, I had no idea that even existed. And the fact that you just kind of went out and did that for us, it's like greatly appreciated.
You gotta get a slice of that rebate.
Oh yeah, don't worry about that. We get taken care of on the side, and that ties into the fee maximization, right? So, as I'm sure Derek, Jeremy, I know you as well, Jenna. I'm not sure if you follow a lot of the different Facebook forums and groups with the property management groups, but it's a hot topic lately, the resident packages. It's like, how can I build a package for my tenants of services that you charge for, basically, right? So, you know, we built one off of basically various recommendations and reading stuff off the different forums, you know, and tenant insurance is kind of like number one, right, in terms of the offering. So you build it out, you find out what's going to cost you to build a package, and then you provide a markup for it, and you make it mandatory for the tenants. Some make it mandatory, some don't, but the more and more that I see, it's like it's mandatory. If they have insurance involved, it's usually always mandatory.
Oh, Tony, just on that note, so you choose a company, and there was somebody that approached me at, you know, sort of a property management forum that I was at in Halifax,
Yeah.
with, was it Zip Tenant Insurance or something? Anyway, a company. Okay. But would you take the quote? I'm guessing it must be pretty much standard for like an apartment building, and then you would add it to their rent as a requirement and do a markup. Like,
yep, it's a blanket policy. So typically, if you're going to work with these insurance companies, there's no application required from the tenant. You work out the terms. So $1 million liability, $1,000 deductible, $500 deductible, $25,000 content insurance coverage. And those are usually the three big things that are involved in the tenant insurance world. And then you get a pricing from your insurance company. So maybe they charge you $15 per tenant, and you go out and you charge it for $25. And then you're usually responsible for collecting the payments. You just add it on to their rent. And then every month you send the insurance company a check and you keep the difference. It's just really as simple as that.
Okay. And it would be very, so then you would provide the tenants with a copy of their policy so they know they're insured.
The insurance company, you're kind of like, I don't want to say the spokesperson, but the insurance policy is sent by the insurance company. So you're not actually handing out any of that type of documentation. You don't want to be involved with any of that. Essentially, when they sign the lease, they sign a different form. It's kind of like almost like a lead generation form. It's got all their details, and you send it to the insurance company, and that's it. They take care of the rest.
If there was a paperwork issue, and like that would be my concern, is if they were paying and they're like, yeah, we have tenant insurance, and then a fire happens and you realize, oh my God, you screwed up somewhere. Somebody screwed up collecting money, be on the hook for it somehow. Like,
that's a very good point, and we hit that problem. We didn't face the situation with a claim. We would just, at the end of the month, we'd be like, oh shit, you know, we didn't pay that insurance, but the tenant's still there because they extended their lease or some weird scenario happened, and technically the tenant wasn't covered. So what we had to do was So rents were being paid on the 1st. So if the tenant lived in one of the buildings, technically they were still, the insurance money was still coming out of their rent. So and we were paying the insurance company on like the 3rd or 4th of the month for all of the tenants that were participating for that month, because they pay ahead. We had to get the insurance company to change it to where we actually now pay them at the end of the month. Once all of the rents were reconciled and we knew who was actually there, those are the ones we paid. So the insurance company, they're kind of taking more of the risk of they're going on last month's list of tenants, basically who's insured, and we tell them at the end of the month, it's like, no, you got to add these 4 or 5 people. So we removed the risk from our shoulders and put it on the insurance company, and they were okay with it.
Because I'm just trying to think, like, if there was a mix-up or something was messed up with it, I wonder, like, errors and omissions business insurance, would that cover that?
Yes.
Like in a screwed up?
Either E&O or your liability coverage would probably jump in if something like that happened.
And
So,
you pay deductible.
Yeah. So if you want to get into this, make sure your systems are down pat. If you feel like you're all over the place and you're like, whoa, we could really drop the ball here. Yeah. Probably not a great idea. But once you are prepared, you're stable, and it's, it can be fairly easy to implement. We struggled with it for a couple of years. It was like, holy crap, we're getting the money in and we got to send it right away. It was too much. We were going to scrap it all until the insurance company finally said, okay, you can pay us at the end of the month and then send us the list. And we're like, okay, good. Because we got caught where we were actually, the tenants, we were sending them money in advance for tenant insurance, and then the tenant skipped or they didn't pay their rent. We ended up forking out the bill. And I was like, okay, I lost $300 or $400 on a different few occasions, and I'm like, I'm done with that. That ain't gonna work. So anyway, I think it's valuable from the tenant's perspective. They don't have to worry about it. It's just included in their rent, kind of like a one-stop shop. And for you and us as the property managers, it can be an income stream, and for your owners, it could be very good for them as well. I don't. Do you
dealing with a broker or an underwriter?
We're dealing with a broker at Fredericton. So Jenna and Edwin, if you guys ever want to get connected to these guys, let me know. They operate in Nova Scotia as well. And do you guys make it mandatory, Edwin, since you own the buildings as well? It's probably a little bit even more important for you, no?
No, we don't.
Okay.
Not so on the commercial side we do, but on the residential, we're same place as Derek. It's discussed as part of the lease up, but it's not mandatory. Commercial, we button down. Everyone's got to have it. Everyone's got to provide us updates on it. But
it can be a touchy subject, especially if you're dealing with rents that are not massive. If they're $600, $700, $800 rents, it's kind of becomes an affordability thing. I still think we have to kind of get past that and think of what happens in case of a fire and they lose everything. Like, I've been the guy on the ground dealing with the Red Cross, and I've got 10 families in front of me that just lost everything they had, and they're all wondering, well, your insurance is going to cover this, right? We're okay. And I'm like, no, you're not. I'm like, you're on your own. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. This happened to us like 5 years ago. It was the worst experience I've ever had in this business, was this fire. And I can't imagine what this guy's going through right now. It's just a shit show. But anyway, Jeremy, do you get?
Just quickly, on our lease, we have like the standard form of lease, and you probably use that same one for Nova Scotia. We click off that it's required, but that doesn't mean that they're going to run out and get it. Like, sometimes it gets missed, or they just.
Well, there's checks that you can put in. So we used to do, like, it's before you get your keys, you have to provide us proof. So if they don't provide you with a copy of the insurance policy, they don't get keys. So you can, again, you got to make sure that your systems can handle that extra check, and to make sure that it gets done. But it could be something as simple as that. And yes, the problem still remains. They can go out and cancel it the next day. I heard through somebody else that if you tell them to add your company as an additional insured on that tenant insurance policy, if they go to cancel it, you're actually notified. So that's a good way to try to get around that. Is it 100% perfect? I'm not sure. I don't really have any experience with it, but that's what I'm told.
But it would be also good because you might get a heads up that somebody's kind of leaving ahead of time. You'd get a heads up potentially.
Yeah. And we've also spun it to where, like the insurance company that we work with, we try to spin it to where, okay, you're getting this resident package, which includes tenant insurance and these other things. And we also encourage them to say, listen, our insurance broker is Wilson's Insurance. If you have a vehicle, you'll probably be wise for you to go to to call them and get an insurance quote for your vehicle. And you could probably get a 15% discount on your car insurance. So again, you're just trying to show them the positive points, and they're usually thrilled with something like that.
Are the insurers paying fees to you, or you're just acting as the middleman and collecting everything and then paying that on?
Yeah, they charge us a set fee, and then it's up to us to charge whatever we want.
Okay, gotcha.
So you gotta build. Let's say if your resident package just includes tenant insurance, then you may want to be able to probably price that accordingly. But if you've added a bunch of other stuff to the package, then I'd say a popular spot that I'm seeing a lot of guys are around the $50 mark for a resident package. I've seen some guys charge like 25, and I've seen some others charge 100 because they get, they just like packed it full of stuff. 100, I think it's kind of a tough pill to swallow, especially if you're a third-party manager and you're adding $100 to the rent. That could be a difficult discussion to have with owners if they bring it up. Anywhere's under $50, I think you'd be completely fine.
Tony, do you guys have that as like a separate GL line item that you charge out, or is it just totally part of the rent? It's separate.
No, it's separate.
And it's written in the lease separately, like a resident package price?
No, because of our laws here, the lease can only have one fee. So we have to bake it into the one price.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
Yeah.
But then when you record it in Buildium, you have a rent line item, and then you have exactly. You have a package fee. Okay.
Yep. And then one of the pains that we have to go through to be able to offer this is when an owner wants a copy of their lease, we essentially have to make a double of that page showing the real price that doesn't include the insurance, because if they're going for financing, well, they don't get that full amount, right? And you got to be transparent with this. They got to know that that's part of the deal. And you just send them a corrected page with the right amount. Sure.
Yeah, I would imagine that owners need to be just as involved as tenants when it rolls out, if it rolls out, just to make sure everybody, the surprises are no fun. So. Yep.
Jeremy, you guys have it? I'm assuming you have one, right?
Yeah, same as everyone else. We don't look for documentation of it, but we have it in there. And we have. Say again?
Do you have a resident package?
No, we don't have the resident package. I do have owners. So Filter Easy is like the monthly air filter stuff. We actually offer it to the owners as an option. I do have a couple of owners that have selected it, as opposed to pushing it on the tenant. So there's things that we could build one, but I haven't yet. And we had a fire 4 months ago or something on a 4-unit, and pretty much everyone got displaced. So it's definitely one of those things. I think all of those tenants though were in there when we came into the picture. I don't think we had any turnovers, so I don't think we really had an option to get them on leases necessarily, or I forget if we renewed some, but it's a second situation.
So for you and Derek, unfortunately, it's not applicable to us. So the most popular things that I see people bund in the States is petscreening.com, Filter Easy, Second Nature, the tenant insurance, and well, SureVestor is more, I think, something in SureVestor. So you guys have a lot more things that unfortunately we don't have any of those here in Canada, which sucks. Pet screening we can do, but it's been a challenge. I'm not quite sold on that system yet. So
yeah.
Anyway, cool. I'm surprised. I'm actually quite surprised to hear that, Jeremy, that you don't have a resident package. That's got to be number one on Todd's list.
I mean, I've been looked at it, but yeah, it was just all the extra. I mean, maybe when I have more staff or I have another VA that I hire at some point to track it all. Yeah. But I mean, we're making a good bit off the pet rent, and we do the credit risk mitigation fees. So like, with some of that stuff already, I feel like it's a bit much added onto the rent already. And yeah, I mean, we have a fair amount of stuff that's under $1,000 a month, so that's where I kind of run into that thing. But we might offer some of the stuff in the future, but it's more so like not having the manpower to really track it and make sure we're doing it right. So, but it'll probably come in at some point.
Cool. All right. Cool. Insurance. The second thing that I wanted to kind of just quickly run through, just because I know probably a lot of you and people that are watching this recording are going through this issue of the need of a maintenance coordinator on staff. There's been a kind of divide, and there's a lot of discussions going around. Okay, what's the best way to have a maintenance coordinator? Is it VA? Is it an in-person? I think it depends on your environment in terms of what's better. I know for us, we have a maintenance supervisor. He's a live body, and for me, I don't think I could get away with just a VA. Where our guy Dave, he does so much for us that I couldn't see myself otherwise having but a full-time body. So I know, Jeremy, you're kind of newly getting into the maintenance thing. Same thing with Derek, and I know Jenna's running with this, and Edwin, this is kind of your world. And I'd love to hear your input on this. I look at the maintenance coordinator position as typically something that comes in after 2 or 3 maintenance guys, and becomes, at some point it becomes indispensable. It's like, okay, you couldn't live without them. But a lot of people are looking at these maintenance coordinators and they're hesitating on pulling the trigger because of the cost of them, in terms of, okay, shit, I got to get another salary, because this person is not going to be billable. I think there is a way, I know because we do it, that there's also a way to be able to have your maintenance coordinators be billable in addition to their day-to-day stuff. So there's different ways. If you go the route of having an in-person coordinator, we've run with a couple different scenarios. I just want to kind of share with you guys and kind of get your thoughts. One way is to have the maintenance coordinator also participate in putting in some hours in maintenance. So let's say the majority of their time they're doing admin work, but let's say you say, okay, as part of your job, 30 hours a week, I want you to be doing the coordinating and all that admin stuff, but I need 10 hours a week from you minimum in hours, billable hours. And then you bill them out at whatever rate that you need to bill them out at. That way you're getting some help towards their salary and it's not coming completely out of your pocket. So that's one strategy. And the other strategy is to try to get 100% of the maintenance coordinator's salary covered by the work that's being done. So that's going to come into play, Derek, in terms of project fees. If you're running multiple projects or a lot of projects, and the bigger these numbers, that you're going to need somebody like that, I think, eventually. So a lot of those funds could be allocated towards having a person like that. But also, I think a lot of us as property managers, we tend to give away a lot of free time. So let's say, for example, if I'm going to do a maintenance request to have one of the maintenance guys go check on a unit, whatever, it ended up being nothing maintenance related, but you still had to send somebody there and you still end up charging an hour to the building for what was done. Well, a lot of those different types of tasks can now be taken over by the maintenance coordinator. And actually, when you look at their schedule, a lot of their time is actually probably could be billable. So we've kind of, I know over the years, we've kind of gone back and forth about, okay, well, what's billable, what's not billable, and you gotta set these clear lines of delineation. Okay, it's like, no, that's completely not billable. That's just part of what we do. So we've now come to a point to where we have our full-time guy, and we get anywhere from, on the low end, 15 to 25 hours a week that he puts in that's now billable. And with the markup and difference, it pays for about 90% of the salary, 90 to 95%. So again, I know, Derek, I don't know if you're in that position yet to where you're kind of seeing the need, because your number one not working point that we discussed about the other day was, tenant coordination and inspections. That screams like a coordinator somewhere being required and to be able to manage that entire process. Our maintenance coordinator is like the head guy for all of our terms and inspections and pre-inspections. That's part of his role. That's part of his responsibilities.
That's exactly what I want. I mean, maintenance right now is like one of my biggest time sucks. I mean, I have half my day probably is spent talking to my maintenance team or vendors or whatever. And it's just hugely time consuming. Does your coordinator do like the actual work order software side of it too, or just the hands-on everything? So it's like they take all of it. Okay.
So the way that we've got to set it up, and I know a lot of other companies that kind of do it the same way. So for us, in order to be able to submit a maintenance request, there's two ways that tenants can do it. They can go to our website and submit it through there, which is a Monday form, comes right into Monday, or they can call us. We have a full-time person. We don't send it out to a call center that takes all of our calls, and then he'll submit them to the office as tickets. My maintenance coordinator triages all of that. They all come into Monday, and then he assigns them. He looks at them, checks what they are, and then assigns them to all the maintenance techs. And then he just follows that through. So everything filters through him.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. So like the lady Jackie, she's only doing work orders and basically following up with the vendors if we need to reschedule and that sort of thing. And we use that fully as well. They have some handy stuff for that. But I'm still handling like vacancy turns as far as punch list items for that. But basically having that still put in as a work order, and then she could kind of actually follow up on it as well. And so she's making calls to vendors for appliances and stuff like that. And that sort of thing. And so, yeah, I mean, I think I felt the same way. That's what I put in my letters. I think I put, 30 to 50% of my time is maintenance. And that's what I put in the letter when I was, just helping justify the cost. And yeah, I didn't realize, how much time you spend on it, but, and then we also, I have her kind of doing the weekends too. So I think that's an easy way to say, hey, we're really coordinating maintenance 7 days a week, not just on weekdays. Because if something comes over, we can address it.
7 days a week, 24 hours a day. It doesn't. It doesn't shut down.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. We use the 24/7 Pat Live answering service. That's just intake calls and just for our general office line. So you can say not only like you're obviously coordinating all of it, you're working 7 days a week, but you have technology that you're paying for to take in these calls at all times of the day as well. So I think it's pretty easy to justify to the owners when you decide to do it, but that's how we're doing it now.
Yeah, I think it's indispensable to, again, you got to be at a certain stage, and you got to have typically a number of maintenance guys already in there. Obviously somebody to supervise their work, help with quotes, deal with owners. This, about 18 months ago, I've tasked my maintenance coordinator, I call my maintenance manager, supervisor at this point now, anything to do with maintenance, like he coordinates, he contacts the owners, he deals with all of that. He's like, I want to be able to alleviate you from all these different conversations. It's funny because he was a quick learner. He goes, every time you get involved, you screw things up and you forget to communicate something to somebody, and it kind of puts me in a pickle. So I'd much rather have you out of the picture. So just send an email, connect me to the owners, and I'll deal with it. And I'm like, oh, I like this. I get used to that. So they can provide a lot of that. Like a good maintenance coordinator or a maintenance manager is much more than just the maintenance side, but they're the project manager for projects like Derek you're talking about. They're going to help coordinate all the turns because they need to know, and they need to be able to schedule their techs and their subs well in advance of the first of the month. They need to know what's coming up and what they're going to need to do. So he's always like 2 weeks before the first of the month, he's reviewing the move out list every day, and he's calling tenants, asking them, okay, can I go do a pre-inspection? I need to see what your condition is going to look like because I got it re-rented. Am I going into a full paint job and a full clean? Do I got to gut the bathroom? I have no idea. So he needs to go in, get some visibles, get a good idea, and then schedule the guys from there. So that makes the turn coordination, like, I don't want to say a piece of cake, but it's a lot easier than it has to be.
He makes it look like a piece of cake.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what a good one does too. Yeah.
Absolutely. Cool.
I think that's one of the things for me this week that was actually positive was that I did, my assistant's husband she offered him, and he's quite interested in, starting to do that stuff for me. So I've got him started on that. Like he's going to job sites, checking it out, checking to see, if somebody's exterior outlet isn't working, is it to do with the electrical panel or is it a fix? And going and quoting and going. So it's been good so far. My guy has a full-time job, but he has a lot of free time to go and check in with everybody. And where I have 3 guys going right now, 3 maintenance guys or renovation guys, I guess, it's going to be important where they're not all suddenly they're all not at the same job site. So to direct them different places, it's too hard with everything else I have going on. So it's going to be a very positive thing.
And make no mistake about it, maintenance guys is a different world. And Edwin, I'm sure, can attest to that. When you're dealing with trades, they're it's a different caliber of person, employee, different mindsets. And I remember earlier on, we were more of the office type people, and then we had a bunch of maintenance techs that were. And we often found that there was some disconnect. And when I went and posted the position for the current guy that we have, one of the things was I wanted a guy that's going to blend in well, and culturally they could fit into both ends of the spectrum. That they could speak well enough to be able to be presentable in front of an owner, yet they could still shoot the shit with the maintenance techs and kind of make sure that they felt comfortable and that we could build that culture like that. So my current guy, he's 6'2", tattoos from left to right, yet he's the biggest teddy bear and the most gentleman guy that you could ever talk to, right? And he'll give the shirt off his back for anybody. It was huge for us. Huge. Anyway, that's my spiel on maintenance. I thought it was important because I'm hearing a lot more people, and actually pretty much everybody coming into the group, one of their biggest pain points is maintenance and this whole maintenance coordinator. I just got off the phone again with Raja, and she's just going through a hell of a time right now. And she's posting the position this morning for a maintenance coordinator. So a lot of people are kind of feeling that pain.
Yeah.
So the last topic that I want to talk about is, this is a hot seat that Edwin sent in. Edwin, dude, you're the only guy sending in hot stacks. People are going to have to start stepping up to the plate.
Yeah, I feel.
I love it.
Yeah.
You submitted 2.
You get all the attention. Bring it on.
I love it.
I've been reading it a little bit, but man, I just been feeling so small.
So Derek, the hot seat is basically a way. I want everybody to start thinking of this group as kind of like their board of directors. It's like, okay, I'm facing a problem in my business today, and I'm not quite sure how to deal with it. Either I don't have an answer, I'm completely lost, or I have some ideas, but I need some reinforcement. I need maybe some advice. I need some, different perspectives. And that's what's great about getting into an environment like this, because we're all seeing things from different perspectives. So you're going through a current problem and you kind of have, like everybody else, you kind of have tunnel vision. It's like, I don't see any way out of this other than the current ways that I see it. You start describing the problem to us, and then the entire group are going to see it in the way that they see it, which could be completely different the way from you're interpreting it. And they can then pose questions and offer advice for you to be able to say, okay, well, did you ever think about this? Or I did it this way, maybe you could try this way, and offer our experience in different ways that we've been able to do things. So the hot seat is there for everybody to participate in. Each week we try to do at least one pressing it. So I sent out the link. I think you would have got it on your last email. It's in Circle. It's on the left-hand side, basically hot seat link, and it just sends you to a jot form, bunch of questions, gets your mind thinking, and it gets you out there to be able to start describing your problem in a little bit more clearly. A lot of the times, a lot of people find tremendous value just going through the hot seat and writing it out, because they're actually stepping out a little bit, and it's like, as they're writing, they're kind of coming up with new ideas already. So it's got a couple different angles to it. So Edwin is our resident superstar so far, so I'm hoping to see other people start jumping into that. The hot seat today was about an opportunity for, do I want to call it a second location or an expansion into a different city? Let's kind of frame it like that.
It would be a second location, and it would fundamentally rebalance our operations.
Okay, so the city, so it's in Truro. That's like an hour and a half from you?
An hour.
An hour away, okay. 200 units, you're looking to buy it. Is it with Jody?
No.
No, you know Jody?
No.
You don't? Okay, Jody's with First National. Just when you mentioned my mortgage broker was interested, I know Jody does a lot of deals too, so.
Yeah, no, I don't deal with First National.
Okay. So 200 units. So are these, in terms of classification, A, B, C, or D? Where do they sit?
C, and it's a bit of a hodgepodge. It's a lot of properties.
Oh, okay. What's the portfolio look like?
I think it's older stock. It's been converted at points, like old kind of Victorians have been converted. There's a couple of more traditional stuff, but it's a real hodgepodge portfolio that's been assembled over 40 years. Not professionally managed, not professionally maintained. So there's lots of fun to be had.
Okay.
A money pit.
Yeah.
Yep.
So have you just got this morning, so you haven't actually done a walkthrough, you haven't gone to see them yet or anything like that?
No, I've seen some pictures, and I know that market a little bit, and I certainly know that stock and that caliber of tenant, so I know what I'm getting into. It's just, there's a fair bit of scale there for us.
Okay, so let's kind of go through what's the upside.
Upside is that it would triple our unit count. Interest rates are at historic lows. Yep. Vacancy rates are very good. Rental rates are good in Truro.
Yep.
That's the upside. And that plays like in terms of my strategic plan, like that's about where I'd like to get before we go whole hog into new development. It would give us a revenue base that will allow us to kind of ride out any storms or gaps on the development side.
Okay. What are the downfalls other than distance?
It's older stock. We've been trying to move away from smaller stuff. There's going to be a ton of legacy issues that will suck up as much time as we want to put into them. Mm-hmm. It's going to mean a lot more yeah, we'll have to hire a crew up there and manage that. And it's going to take up, it's going to suck up most of my available capital into that one deal.
How many buildings total?
38.
38. What's the biggest?
8.
Oof. So they're all small.
They're all small.
Okay. I was just wondering if there's any, so it's probably one person wanting to sell it all or nothing, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Like it has to be, it can't be broken up. Would it make sense to buy it and then you could piecemeal and kind of keep the best and sell the others? Or would that just be a painful experience?
No, I think that's probably a good option. Start sifting through it a little bit. And the pricing is very good. Like we're significantly below market.
Yep.
I would say we're 55, 60 cents on the dollar.
Nice.
So yeah, it's going to be a ton of work, but there's a lot of upside to be had there too.
I just had a
It's just this old fellow wants to pass the torch, man. It's a very emotional transaction.
Okay. How did you get the call?
Through our we have a commercial banker whose son also works with us, and they're pretty close with them. So yeah, my banker knows me inside and out, and so that's how the referral came in.
So let's talk about operationally. 200 units don't just take care of themselves. So no. Is there currently any staff in Truro that will come with the deal?
There's a couple of maintenance guys, but they're not at a level that I would accept. I think he runs a few of the properties cash and pays them with proceeds from that, and it's not professional, and it's not something I would be interested in continuing on long term.
What about like resident manager, cleaners? Nothing?
No.
Who collects them? Like rent collection?
He does.
This guy, so the owner did it all himself?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So is there enough, I'm guessing by the fact that you're going to be getting this at such a cheap rate, there's enough margin there for you to be able to hire. Obviously, you probably want one full-time person operationally to be the property manager on the ground. I'm assuming it could stomach that.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
And then build a team around them for a time, because we'll need it.
Yeah. So how much time do you, is it full? What's the vacancy rate?
No, it's pretty bad, I'd say, for Nova Scotia, in that it's just over 90% occupied.
Okay. It's getting up there in terms of vacancy. So how much time would you see this, knowing your schedule and knowing everything that's been going on for you and what's happening? How much energy and resources this is going to require from you personally? Like, are you going to have to be in Truro every other day now by getting this? Obviously, during
depends
the acquisition,
on who I can find.
Right. Okay. Do you got any contacts out there?
Not in that world. Not people that I could hire.
Okay. Cool. What question? Let's go. Anybody have any ideas or questions that can kind of help Edwin think this through?
Oh, go ahead, Jim.
Oh, I was just going to say one thing that I had heard from one of my property owners about Truro is to just be careful about the floodplain areas to make sure you can get the properties insured. I'm assuming like I would just ask that back to the owner to make sure that you can get insurance, even if you have to go with who he had, or hopefully he has insurance. But yeah.
Cool. I didn't know that about Truro. They have a big problem out there.
certain areas I guess are low, and and certain areas, and it might depend on your insurance broker or agent. Certain properties she's looked into, she found out she couldn't get insured, so she backed away from them. So that would just be something to think about too. Yeah.
There's I mean, one thing is obviously the opportunity cost of sinking into this versus doing some of the other stuff I know we had talked about on the phone.
That's what I just wrote down, Jeremy.
Yeah.
It's like you're reading my mind.
The cost, like obviously the cost due to the distance, if you're having to do your own crews and stuff. Something that I was thinking what Tony was thinking, do it in phases possibly if the owner's open to it. Hey, let's start with 25, and let's maybe do this a full year transition, or maybe a little bit longer depending on the income they need. And maybe the seller would sell or finance a portion of some of these properties as far as your capital. And I think it makes sense to joint venture with someone on some of these small ones. Like you said, the banker, like let them get involved, maybe at a 50-50 so that you're not, it doesn't sound like a good idea to tap out all the capital that you do have into this. One thing that we are doing with those 20 or so doors in Pasco County, it's about an hour from me, and I'm just linking up with a property manager there to run the leasing. But had you considered, at least for the first year, to outsource management completely until you get everything professionally done, let somebody else jump on the grenade with your oversight, I think could actually be a really smart move. And then you could build the systems out from there, or transition at some point if they're open to it. Just hiring that local company for the tenant placement might be a smart option. But to me, it sounds like if you could do phases and grow with the property management company that's already there that has a great reputation, that might alleviate a lot of headaches for low cost until it gets streamlined, and then come in after that.
Solid. Great point, man. Is there a PM out there that you know? Are there? I'm pretty sure there's PMs out there. I don't know much about that market, but
I'm sure there are. It's interesting. Like what you just said is just like it encapsulates the reason I'm scared of getting into property management, because it just like the thought of throwing someone under the bus like that for a year, and then they bring everything up.
But it's I guess you can't look at it that we've been put in that situation.
We asked for it.
Yeah.
You
gotta think this manager. Think of it from another perspective, Edwin. This property manager is in Truro. Not a lot going on in Truro. It's not the biggest and greatest place to live. And some guy comes knocking on his door and is giving him 200 units. He's going to shit his pants.
Yeah.
There's 100%, if he's any good of a property manager, he knows these things are coming to market, or he knows the owner, or whatever the case may be. Either, hopefully it's not that way, that they're so bad that he's going to run. But it's going to be more the opposite. It's like, hell yeah. It's like, even if it's for a year, we manage stuff in Amherst, and we're like 45 minutes away, and it was right around 200 units. And we're like, we knew it was temporary, but we're like, yeah, if it's financially, it's worth it. I'd rather get a year worth of a good pay than nothing.
Yeah.
In our market, it's very common for, when a good property, or almost any property, makes its way through the grapevine before it hits the market. If a multifamily or investment property hits the MLS, usually nobody wants it because it's gone before it gets to that point. So it's common here for somebody in your position to go hypothetically talk to managers about you wanting to enter that market. And maybe you're not at the point where you can disclose what kind of properties they are, but through a conversation with a manager or a couple that you talk to, you may find out that they're going to disclose, do whatever you do, take on anything but those 200 units. And lo and behold, they disclose stuff that you're never going to get disclosure through the sale process. So I think that would be a logical step to find out more about the market and more about what managers can provide, what kind of services they can provide you, and maybe find out more about this portfolio of properties, especially if they've been self-managed. What kind of market is it size-wise? Population, any idea?
20, 30,000?
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's small. Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
smaller than mine. So I mean,
Yeah.
a market that small, everybody and their brother's going to know this guy. You know, every manager's going to know this guy. In my market at 55, 60,000, we usually know the big ones. If somebody's got 200 units, they're known around town, and usually it's not in a good way. If somebody's self-managing 200 units, especially if they're to the point where they're going to retire or older, you know, they just unfortunately have a bad habit and a bad reputation of not treating the property and the tenants the way they should be.
Yeah, Truro's 12,000 people, smaller than I thought.
Yeah, super small. So,
Yeah.
you know, somebody with 200 units, that's probably like King Tut over there. I don't know. It's got to be a big deal.
Yeah. I'm sure, Edwin, I'm sure we could help, you know, ask around in terms of PMs in Truro. I dealt with one guy many, many years ago. I'd have to kind of try to dig up his name. I'm sure Jenna could check through her network and see if we could somehow find somebody in that area.
There's some investors who invest in Truro that have come to our meetups, so I can definitely check with them. But that sounds like a really interesting portfolio, because that's what everybody's on the watch for right now. Is tired landlords that hit 2020 and are just like, I'm done.
I'm done. Yep.
I'm done. Tired properties. It will be interesting. I like the idea of doing it in phases if you can, just to kind of ease into it would probably be really good if you could work that out. Yeah.
And I got a hard stop at 2:30 here, but one thing I would consider is you can always liquidate, you know, sell off 50% if you want. You know, if you're getting them at that steep of a discount, you said no problem, not even touching them, and, you know, basically assigning or double closing and, you know, making an easy spread. Because I mean, in our market too, anything 4 unit, 8 unit are just, everybody wants it. So, you know, I think that makes sense. And my concern about the cheap price is a lot of self-managing owners, they have no documentation of anything. So you're probably getting the discount because you're not getting records of maintenance records or all the deposits. Like you have to go through a long due diligence process just to.
There'll be nothing. There'll be hardly any leases. There'll be, it'll be a blank slate.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with Jeremy, to where if there's a possible way that you can buy this whole thing, and then in parallel, like you're already getting your agents ready to relist these things, the ones that you just don't want. And if you can turn around, even if you're breaking even on the sale, but if you're getting them that cheap, you'll probably be able to make a few bucks on the sales as well, you know, in addition to covering your fees. The last point that I wanted to just kind of throw out there is, I think that hiring a PM would definitely be a solid way to go if you can find the right company to be able to take these on for you. But if it doesn't go that way, what I don't want you to end up getting into is this becoming your bastard child, to where you bought this thing and now you're stuck with 200 units an hour and a half away, and it's like every time you get a call or you think about it, your blood pressure rises, and Edwin's got to get in a truck and he's got to drive down the Truro again because he doesn't have anybody there to fix whatever's going on. So I know when we opened up locations from a business perspective, I've learned throughout the years that it's extremely, extremely difficult to do. And I wasn't a big fan of it, to be honest with you. We're selling our PI location now, and I'll be glad when I'm done with Halifax and PI. I want to focus on Moncton. I want to grow the shit out of the opportunities that I have around me. And I kind of look back and somewhat regret of the opportunity cost that I lost by being focused and kind of chasing these other paths of opening up these other locations.
Yeah.
So definitely keep that in mind, because again, you got a lot of stuff going on. But all in all, I think we can all agree this sounds like a pretty kick-ass opportunity. But you know, uncover every stone.
Should I get a couple of existing guys and be like, boys, next 6 months you're moving to Truro? Like, would you redeploy existing people so there's expectations around that, or try and hire someone there fresh?
I like the idea of doing this. I like the angle of hiring a PM right out of the gate, just so that it can give you more time to get to know the properties before you start onboarding it into your own portfolio and your systems. And then as you get going, then you can start strategically deploying, if you want to send a couple of your crews over there, a couple of guys to do a couple months worth of projects. It just, again, it's going to buy you a little bit more time and a little bit less off your shoulders, to be honest with you. Yeah, you're kind of giving the shit end of the stick to the property manager. He's going to have to learn all these buildings, put the system in place, get the leases in place, like a lot of work, but you're paying them for them. That's what they do.
And you got to think too about
what's it going to cost?
Budget like 5% probably of, I'm assuming that's probably what they're charging in that area. You'll have to find out what they charge for lease ups.
That's it?
Yeah. Maybe a couple $100 on a lease up, and then find out what they charge for maintenance.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
5-7% probably. I don't know.
Yeah.
If they do sales, that's an easy way to dangle and say, hey, look, like we're going to fix these up and sell them. So you're going to everything. And that'll be a golden ticket. I mean, they'll forego a lot of the pain if they know they're going to be able to sell some of this stuff and make some good commissions.
Hell yeah.
Sell the painful ones. And then the other thing you got to think about with your crew going back and forth, I know you got to think about the road conditions, because I know our mutual acquaintance there, he had some crews that were having to drive from Truro to Halifax, and the road conditions can play a factor in the winter.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think, Edwin, the more you can pull this off initially without too much of your own personal time and your personal crew, the better. And even the less your money, if you can find some ways to do JVs and some seller financing, even better. Just because there's some special risks, but if done right, I think there could be a huge payoff at the end.
Yeah. Awesome.
Sound good?
Awesome.
Some good things to think about.
Hire a property manager.
That's right. Who would have thought?
I like this. Man, 5 to 7%, like it is not even worth, like I can't compete with that.
No, the headaches that you're gonna, that you're just not gonna have to worry about. And again, that property manager, to get an opportunity, ask any of us. Somebody comes knocking on our door with 200 units. I'm like drooling. I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
Even the bad ones, like we're gonna turn those good, but
yeah, exactly. Well, the bad ones, if there's maintenance opportunities there for them, like there's just a lot of stuff.
Edwin, are you doing the TV show?
Yeah, we had like a full day of shooting yesterday. Fuck me, like that is painful.
This could be an interesting. This could be like an interesting thing for the TV show, right? Like, think about what we all love as property managers is coming into the property that's underperforming. You turn it around, you rehab it, you stabilize it, you increase the value. Like that's what we love doing. I think most of us. This could be a pretty interesting case study, if you will.
Doing it at scale.
Yeah, and some content.
Yeah.
And like we talked about before, like when people are noticing that, then you go to raise capital for something else, or you're just building that credibility to leverage in other areas too.
Yeah. The ironic thing, Tony, is that the TV stuff is driving me back on site. I'm like going on site and pretending now because.
Okay. Just don't let them start. Don't let them start. Don't let them start the excavators. Jesus.
You're a TV star now, so you're allowed to make a cameo every now and then.
Sweet. That's exciting. Okay, cool. Well, send us the whenever the promos come out for this thing. We want to see some footage, hopefully before it gets out there.
Yeah. If you need any extras, we'll see what we can do.
Nice.
All right. Yeah, and let me know if anyone turns up a PM in Truro. I'll do some digging though. There's probably not too many.
No, I'll do some research too if I can find some names.
Awesome.
Cool, guys. All right. I think that wraps it up for today. I appreciate everybody for being here. And we'll talk again next week.
Nice to meet you guys.
Have a great rest of you guys.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.